Alright, so I played a game recently called Metro Last Light. It's weird because I clearly remember playing it years earlier, but past a certain point I have absolutely no recollection of anything happening, to the degree that I actually don't understand the plot that well. Why that bunker? What's even so important about it? Why do they fight so hard over it? How are there so many survivors that we can wage an actual war over it? But whatever, story-wise I just felt like the whole thing didn't play out very enjoyably or in a particularly interesting way. So I won't say much more on that. By the by, I did get a bad ending. Apparently I was supposed to stay and listen to random NPCs, never loot anything and generally stealth through without knocking anyone out. Technically doable, but yeah, no. This isn't like most games. The NPCs randomly start talking all the time, and telling which ones matter is impossible. And you can't come back and ask them to repeat themselves. It's truly like dealing with annoying elderly relatives. Besides that, not looting items seems idiotic. Maybe if that was telegraphed in some way, at least, but nope. As it's never obviously shown what is supposed to be safe to take and what isn't. Despite all that, I avoided killing anyone as much as I possibly could. So most of the time I pretty much wasn't spotted at all, and basically I only went lethal 2-3 times just because I was tired of reloading. No quick saves, by the way. And the ending was not well done. I didn't feel like I messed up, the game just asked for the impossible without saying anything, and in the end showed a pretty bleak situation happen. But from what I read, the better ending is, quote-unquote better ending, is actually kind of goofy and silly. Anyway, gameplay-wise is the part that actually made me a bit depressed, because I do recall the game being, well, a metro, a subway. You'd go around stations, discover new places, see how people survive in each particular place and how do they differ. Yada yada yada. Apparently my memory isn't a colander, it's just a tube. As the game is linear as all hell, and there are very rarely even things to find in some side paths, which are always dead ends, it's so restrictive that I frequently even tried to just jump on some boxes, and even that couldn't work. So many invisible walls, so many awkward paths which you can't cut, so many tunnels, which is almost comedic if you think about it. The moment the player gets to go through the metro in a little car, they are given a lot more freedom than they would otherwise. In fact, I would say that the surface level feel the most linear of all. It looks like there are a lot of places to go and be, it looks like you can find a lot, but it's at best a path with a dead-end branch. Bearing that, the game also features stealth, which could be described as many things, but the most apt would probably be something akin to a coloring book. The enemies are entirely brain dead, don't have a proper cone and vision mechanic, and instead everything is operated on the light system, which is inconsistent. And is borderline invisibility. So the player just has to go through the obvious darkened paths, sometimes a tiny step away from in front of enemies, where they could definitely see you, but they don't, and you just knock them on the noggin. I.e., the player is following a preordained path like a drawing in a coloring book. I've struggled a few times, but it was mostly boiling down to the fact that the physical light in the game that the player sees and the light what the enemies see is not always the same. So I would frequently have my toe illuminated, get spotted and panic, sit there for a bit, but they would very slowly go from alarmed state to searching, by which point I assume I'm in the clear, only to get spotted again, and this time I would trigger combat. Stealth is... well, it's not the worst, it's functional, but I would definitely say that it's a janky mess. Gunplay is reasonable enough. I'm always a fan of when everything isn't a bullet sponge. The very few times I get annoyed and didn't stealth, I distinctly remember going through an area, spending like 4 bullets in my assault rifle and getting 4 kills. I feel like some games take pride in the fact that enemies could take a rocket launcher to the face and keep going. Or having everything be so inaccurate that past arm's reach it's impossible to do basically anything. It's definitely not the case here. But in Metro, the player is still borderline unkillable, which is okay. I didn't go for the high difficulty, and was mostly just checking out what random free games on Steam I got over the years. One thing I do have to mention now is that by today's standards the game is dated, and that is absolutely okay. But what I want to make clear is that it's not ugly. It looks reasonable enough, and there are some nice effects on the gas mask, for example. I do enjoy wiping it. The animations don't look too bad either. yada yada yada. And the game took... Let me just pause here for dramatic effect. The game took around 170 megabytes of my RAM. 170 megabytes. And it went up and down to 20 or 30 maybe. That just baffles me. I frequently see games nowadays not just have 10 times that, but even more. Visual novels, pixel games that look like they are from SNES, random slop. I don't get what the hell happened to optimization. I'm not gonna talk about stuff like Stellaris, I get why that can devour system resources. But how the hell do you drop the ball on something like a simple platformer? I remember I've had an isometric flash-looking game on 2 gigabytes of VRAM, and sure, it's not much, but it's a flash-looking freaking game, and it was on a consistent 15 FPS, over 50% of my CPU usage and devouring multiple gigabytes of RAM. Hell, I can even point to Songs of Conquest, the game I adore. I started it, loaded the map, 2 gigabytes of RAM, 30% of my CPU usage. Holy crap, what are you even doing, people? Imagine going back to when 4 gigabytes of RAM was enough to run the game, have a browser open with a double digit of tabs, and do something else on the side as well. And you didn't chug at all. If there's one thing tech bros with crypto bullshit and AI slop hopefully did, it is making developers optimize things once more, since nobody can afford anything. But maybe this is just me with some wishful thinking.